MAYDAY from 2021 is a mostly female cast fantasy war movie starring Grace Van Patten and Mia Goth. I showed up for this movie because of Mia Goth, and I was in for a real treat. I just didn't realize it. Now, before I even get too much into it, this is one of those movies that is largely symbolic, maybe allegorical, maybe makes references to actual historical events, because it is World War II aesthetic, but it, at least on the surface, has nothing to do with World War II. I saw some connections to other historical events, but just know going in that this is a fantasy movie with a lot of magical realist elements, and as such it's quite a divisive movie because a lot of viewers don't really latch on to anything that's going on. They didn't care to decode the film in the way that I felt compelled to do. But if you're looking for a good Mia Goth performance, which is redundant, you're gonna get one here. She's awesome in this, but so is the rest of the cast. Grace Van Patten plays Anna, who is our main character, who after a traumatic event, let's say, is whisked away to this world where women are at an endless war with men. So she takes refuge with a small group of women who lure men to their island and kill them. So there's another layer for you, the mythology of the sirens luring sailors to their doom. What I saw in this movie was a metaphor for political ideologies at endless war with each other, not just a battle of the sexes. Now, I do like weird and strange movies, and this one is just strange enough for me. It doesn't push the dial of wackiness off the charts. It's just whimsical and weird enough to also get engaged in the story, and if you like, to dig into the layers of symbolism and hidden meaning in this movie. It works as entertainment, and for me it worked as a thought experiment that I could really chew on after watching it. The only thing I didn't really love about this movie is Juliette Lewis's character. I'm not the hugest fan of Juliette Lewis, but I just think the role that she played would have been better suited for someone else, with all due respect. So while it's not going to be for everyone, MAYDAY is a movie that surprised me with how much I loved it, and I bought the Blu-ray immediately, and I can't wait to watch it again. The Snow Woman from 1968 is a film that I put on for a very specific reason. It was very cold the other day when I woke up. Where I live, it doesn't usually get down into the 20s, but it was in the 20s on that particular morning. So I looked at my Blu-ray shelf and I said, The Snow Woman might be a good choice for this morning. This movie is based on a Japanese fable, and at a brisk 80 minutes, it does not waste any time. It gets right into it, telling the story of the Snow Woman, who is this vengeful ghost who lives in the mountains. And the movie opens with two men looking for a special tree that they want to use for a wood sculpture. When they find the tree and take refuge in a nearby shack, the Snow Woman appears and kills the older man, and she tells the younger man, "I will spare you if you promise you will never tell anybody what happened here tonight." Now, if you're like me, you have heard this story before. Maybe it rings a bell. Maybe it reminds you of something. And I'm not just talking about the movie Qui-Gon, which this story also appears in. And I don't want to spoil where I'm thinking of it from, because then you'll know what I'm talking about if you go and watch this other movie that I'm thinking of. But suffice it to say, the movie tells the story in a great way where it doesn't hold the audience captive for some kind of reveal. In certain ways, the movie shows its cards very early on, so I wasn't worried about already knowing what was happening in the story. That allowed me to immerse myself in the amazing cinematography, practical special effects, and awesome performances from all of the cast in this movie. This movie is creepy as hell. I wouldn't call it scary, though some of the scenes with the Snow Woman when she's in her spectral form are very off-putting. And they do that thing that I've talked about that I like in mostly Asian horror, where ghosts or specters or whatever will glide across the floor instead of walking. What's funny is in this movie you can tell they're doing it with a dolly, and in one shot for about a second you can actually see the dolly, but I didn't care. It still looked fucking awesome. This is one of those movies where every shot is just beautiful. Every idea that is put on screen works. And everything culminates in this really bittersweet and heartfelt ending. And then the movie just ends. I was blown away by The Snow Woman. I've seen a few of the kind of horror movies from the 60s out of Japan, like Kuroneko. Although I haven't seen Kwaidan, I really need to just sit down and watch that. But this is the best of that era that I've seen so far. So if you have others to recommend, please let me know. The Snow Woman was an absolute banger for me, start to finish. The Velvet Vampire from 1971 falls into one of my favorite made-up subgenres, which is sexy female vampires. Now, most of the ones I've seen are from either Jess Franco or Jean Roland, but this movie was directed by Stephanie Rothman, and I really enjoyed seeing a movie like this that had a different flavor, so to speak, than the ones I've seen before. In this movie, our main characters, Susie and Lee, meet a mysterious woman named Diane who invites them to her desert hideaway for a vacation weekend, or I forget what the purpose of it is, but essentially, as you can guess, she wants to seduce and kill both of them. It also, for me, hit the perfect balance of really cool stuff going on and really campy and funny, sometimes intentionally funny, sometimes unintentionally funny. There's one particular scene with so many double entendres going back and forth that one of the actresses can't keep a straight face. And I just love that kind of stuff. I was laughing my ass off watching this movie. But that's not to say it's a comedy. There's just some really funny parts, but there's some really awesome parts. When they first get to the desert, we're reintroduced to Diane as she speeds over a dune in a dune buggy. And it's so freaking cool, like this out of nowhere little mini action shot that I was like, oh man, this is just awesome. This movie is also 80 minutes long and is paced perfectly. I never got bored. I thought everything that was happening was either silly or stupid or cool enough that I was just eating it up, and I'm really glad I was able to check this out. Now, this movie, I don't give it a universal recommendation. I don't think everybody's gonna like this one, but if you like those kind of cheap looking movies that are secretly really good and actually shot very well and maybe not acted the best, but the script is really good and funny, then you might want to check out The Velvet Vampire. And I think that'll do it for this one. Thank you for staying till the end, and check out the playlist on my channel if you liked this video. I've done many of these short movie reviews. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.